the question and answer webinar for the B grant. This is our second webinar that we've hosted this year. We're really excited to be here this evening. I'm Ashley Ellis from Whole Foods Market Foundation. I'm joined by Andrea on my team, as well as Tammy and Emily from the B Cause. We will all be giving you guys some wonderful information tonight. So I'll give you kind of an overview of the agenda on the next slide. Or actually first some housekeeping. We will go through plenty of frequently asked questions that we receive year over year, but we will also have plenty of time for questions at the end. So if your question is not covered, go ahead and drop that into the Q&A function, which should be in the toolbar or the menu bar of the Teams app or of the website, that if you're on the browser version. Yes, if you have a question for us, go ahead and put it in the Q&A function. If you just have a chat, like you want to say hi or where you're calling in from, or send an emoji, you can use the meeting chat for that. And yes, like I just said, the webinar will be recorded and will be shared with everyone via email and posted on YouTube, so feel free to share far and wide. All right, next slide. Cool. So the agenda. So we will cover a few things that are pretty high level, just like basics about the program. I will also just tell you a bit about the Garden Grant program, another grant that we offer at the Whole Foods Market Foundation. We will give a high level overview of eligibility, because that's actually one of the areas we get a ton of questions. Then we'll just cover some other frequently asked questions about the program, about bees, about the grant, etc. We will give an overview of the timeline, so you know what to expect and when you'll be notified of our decision. We can also cover how to apply in Smart Simple if folks have questions around that. And then again, just opening it up for questions above and beyond anything we'll cover in the agenda. Okay, so let's hit the next slide. Perfect. So yes, I just wanted to let you guys know about the Garden Grant from the Whole Foods Market Foundation, because it's such a great kind of matching piece to the B grant. It's not, of course, required that you do both, but you are folks are eligible to apply to both grant types. So the Garden Grant, it's a wonderful complement to the B grant. It is a $3,500 monetary grant. Funds are to be used to support an edible educational garden in a school. So schools in the US and Canada can apply. You must be working with children in grades K through 12, at least 10 children in those grades, and lots more info available on our website. And as a heads up, the next application period for the Garden Grant opens in February of 2026. So if this sounds interesting to you, now is a great time to start thinking about it and thinking about whether you have an existing garden at your school or whether you want to make a brand new one. Both are eligible, but it's a great time to start thinking about that and plotting that out to be ready to start an application in February of 2026. Oh, I do see one question in the chat about the Garden Grant, so I'll go ahead and answer this one. It's not necessarily a one-time grant. The grant itself, first of all, the grant, the $3,500 does not have an expiration date. So some folks can choose to use that over the course of multiple years. And we also do a lifetime maximum of 2 garden grants per any school. So schools, and we definitely encourage schools to apply for a second grant after they've received their first one. We do just ask for you to wait 1 year in between cycles, and that allows, of course, you to use the funds at your school and for us to learn about how you've used the funds and for the funds to get spent before you apply for new funds. Yes, so definitely reapply. And if you have any questions about your eligibility that are not answered in Smart Simple, feel free to reach out to us by email, and we'll be putting our email throughout this PowerPoint. Okay, next slide. Awesome. That's great, Megan. Okay, great. I will go ahead and pass it over to Emily to cover these next slides. Thank you guys so much.
All right, thanks, Ashley. Happy to jump in. So just another highlight of the B grant eligibility. All applicants must be in the United States or Canada. They must be a K through 12 school or nonprofit organization that also provides K through 12 curriculum or education. Work with at least 10 or more children, and the B program must be used as an educational tool. If you're still not sure, next slide. If you're unsure, please just reach out to us. We understand that each program is slightly nuanced. If you're just not sure if you fall in that eligibility, we're here to help. We do have 1,000 schools, over 1,000 schools and nonprofit organizations currently through the US and through 4 countries that host hives and other types of grants that we've given over the years. So again, if you're not sure about eligibility, just reach out to us at info@thebcause.org. Next slide. So each of these bullets is a question that we've gotten. Are we eligible if we're a 501c3? And in Canada, that's a registered charity. Yes, if you have a fiscal sponsor, if you are a private or with a private school, if you're partnering with a business, if you're working with a youth program, a museum, if you're working with a camp, as long as you're or a homeschool group with 10 or more students, then the answer is yes to all of those. We've recently had a question about higher priority given to organizations that work with more than 10 kids. And I would say the answer to that is no, we don't give a higher priority. We do try to mix the programs so that we support a lot of different programs, smaller, more intimate groups of kids, as well as larger groups. I would say that in your application, we look more at the plan for your programming as opposed to the amount, as long as you're hitting that 10 plus students. Next question, or sorry, next slide. So who is the applicant? I know that comes up a lot in our questioning, whether you are a teacher at the school, a leader of a camp. So we're trying to break it down and make it as basic as possible. If you're the person who's delivering the educational programming, then you're the B advocate and the applicant. If you're an individual who's hosting the bees, then you're the bee advocate as well as the applicant. Consider it like purchasing livestock or like getting a pet. Who's going to be responsible for making sure that it's cared for, making sure that it's that everybody on the team is picking up what they need to take care of. But again, every program is different. So if you're unsure about yours, please feel free to email us. I know sometimes we get off on a tangent about one particular program in this rather than big questions for everyone. So if you're still unsure and we don't answer it tonight, please email us. And so to that, we've given a couple of examples. So if you're a university extension agent, you're the bee advocate as well as the applicant. If it's the job description, and you'll be the one that's teaching the pollinator education for the duration of that job. So you'll be the person that's possibly managing the hives and working with more than 10 students, then you are the advocate and the applicant. If you're at a school, you're also the advocate and applicant. If your school is chartered to teach pollinator education, and you'll be the person managing the hive as well as the responsible party. So it feels very cut and dry, but we know that sometimes it's nuanced, so feel free to ask. How do I find a bee mentor? So you can reach out to us at info@thebcause.org. We do recommend that you start with your local beekeeping association. If there's a beekeeping conference locally in your area, and it might be a town or two over, but they still might have a resource and a way to point you towards someone who's willing to help you and be your bee mentor. Can your bee mentor be a staff member? Of course. It does not have to be a staff member, but it can be a staff member. We just recommend asking everybody on your staff. It could be a parent or a grandparent that you don't even know is a bee mentor. So you have lots of people in your own backyard that could possibly help you. We actually use Bee Culture's website. It reaches all 50 states and Canada to find a local beekeeper. So that's one of the things we keep in our back pocket. You can use it and try to find some support as well. There are tons of beekeepers out there that do want to help and do want to continue the education that they've taken on to learn, and then also to teach the kids and to teach possibly you and your staff about it. So again, if you're having trouble with that, reach out to us, but this is where we suggest you start. And what should you look for in a bee mentor? So if you go on our website, we do have the Bee Mentor role and responsibility document that you can just print out. You can share with someone if they're asking what the responsibilities are or what the requirements are. We do recommend that it's a trained beekeeper or at least an experienced beekeeper, someone with passion, someone with know-how, someone that can educate you and be your go-to person. We do recommend maybe a member of a beekeeping association, but it's not a requirement for this. Obviously, it's someone that has an interest in beekeeping education too. It's different to keep your own bees, but also you're looking for someone who's out there helping you educate about bees. Someone who's willing to assist you on your journey. Just a point, funding can pay the beekeeper from your check that you'll receive with this grant, but we do recommend finding a volunteer. The money that you receive really is for setting up your bees and getting your program started. So if you can find a volunteer, that's really helpful for you. And how often does the bee mentor need to work with the bees? So they should be there to help you install your bees, which is usually in the spring. A note about that, beekeepers typically order their bees in December. So we'll talk a little bit more about the timeline, but you should work with your bee mentor to make sure that you have your bees ordered. So you'll receive your, whether you've received the grant or not, no later than December 17th. So that'll help you connect with your bee mentor about ordering bees. You will want them to be there when starting your hive every 2 weeks or so, just to check in, make sure that everything's going according to your plan. But once it's established, a monthly check-in should be fine. You will want them to be there with you for seasonal honey harvest and for treating pests or mites during that high time, or the time of the year where the levels are high, kind of depending on your location across the US and Canada. But you will want your bee mentor to help you with that. All right, getting your bees approved. So obviously that's going to start with a passionate and knowledgeable bee advocate. We've kind of covered if you're the bee advocate or what the bee advocate might look like at your organization. And you're going to want to work with a reliable bee mentor, someone who's not going to not be available to you when you have questions. We also recommend that you know the facts. Be prepared to work with the school and the district for their whatever approval process they may have. For nonprofits, we suggest that you consult with your admin and your board of directors for guidance on what that would look like. When you're reading through the Bee Grant overview, which is one of the required readings, there's a portion of that is the Getting Your Bees Approved document within the Bee Grant overview that will help you with that if you've not already started that process. For safety, every bee grant comes with a sign that indicates what's happening here, that this is an educational project, and it will need to be placed somewhere on your campus that will indicate to people that this is an area where bees are coming and going. So placement on your campus is key. Your bee mentor can help you with the sign as well as placement of your hive, but it should be away from high traffic areas. The bees will need a 10-foot easement in order to orient to their hive. It looks like they're flying in circle 8s in front of the hive before they come in for the evening and when they're out foraging. And it also needs to be away from frequently used doors. So not near a front door of a school or a door that's frequently open going to the playground or going to a portion of your campus. We have the Bee Cause Safety Guide. We recommend you share it with families, with your staff. That is on our website in the resource library. Feel free to share it with families, printing it out, having it at an open house, or having it at a back to school night, so you can start a really positive conversation. We recommend having the school nurse as part of your bee team. For obvious reasons, that might be the person who has your EpiPens or who is an advocate for the students who may or may not have bee allergies. We do get the question a lot about bee allergies, and frequently parents who have a child that is allergic to bees actually really enjoy the fact that the students learn a lot about bees. It helps their kid be more of an advocate for themselves, as well as speaking on behalf of the bees, that bees, when left in their environment to behave normally and are not feeling any sort of aggression in the environment, will be out there just doing their cosmic tasks. So we have found in the past that people who do have bee allergies are actually excited that their kids and other kids will learn about these important pollinators and actually how docile they really are. But for more details, go to thebcause.org, and again, that's in the Bee Grant overview where you can find that information. Can a homeschool group apply for the Bee Grant? Yes. Homeschools can apply if they work with 10 or more kids in the K-12 range and have a 501c3 status, or partner with a fiscal sponsor that does have 501c3 status. What if I already have a beehive on campus? Are you still eligible? So this is kind of where the choose your own adventure divides. If you are a previous Whole Kids and Bee Cause Project grant recipient and you already have bees on campus, then you really want to apply for the renewal grant. That's to improve your existing program. The money can be spent on bees, suits, everything that's in the list. Funds can be spent directly on your bee programming. Funds cannot be spent on field trips, travel, or real estate. So if you, on to the next slide. If you already have bees on campus and you are not a Whole Kids and Bee Cause grant recipient, then you are looking to apply for the traditional bee grant. That is to expand or improve on your existing bee program, since you're already saying you have bees on campus. You can still select between the observation hive, which we'll talk more about what's included in that, and the monetary offering. So you'll have a selection between the two. And again, funds can be spent directly on bee programming, equipment, and your bees, but cannot be spent on field trips, travel, or real estate. This one's come up a lot. And does the beehive have to stay on campus? So as a requirement through our partnership with Whole Kids, we require that you keep your beehives home on the school campus or organization's campus. We really have found that this is a best practice for all parties involved. However, we do know that exceptions exist. So there may be a spraying that's happening locally in your community, or there may be a farm across the street that they've conveyed to you that they're going to be doing some pest spraying. You might be working with your bee mentor to revive a colony, or it could be on the advice of your bee mentor to move the hive off campus for a period of time, which is of course understandable. But if you're not sure, reach out and we'll help you determine, is this an eligibility? Is this something that's going to make or break your eligibility? So again, if you have questions, let us know. Can the grant be used for native bees? So the bee grant specifically, the traditional bee grant, is specifically for adding honeybees to your campus. However, the renewal bee grant does not have to be used to reinstall honeybees. If you've gone through the process and it was such a genuine and unique experience that you just feel like you would like to apply for the renewal, but try your hand at possibly habitat restoration, native bee habitats, pollinator-friendly gardening projects, we completely are here for it. We at the Bee Cause do offer other bee grant or other types of grants throughout the year. So please follow us on social media at the Bee Cause, or sign up for our newsletter so that you can learn more about that as well. So we hope that covers that question, but I'm sure we'll probably have some more questions about it independently. Can funds be used to plant a garden or create an outdoor classroom? Yes, enthusiastically. If you already have an fully operating beehive on your location, your funds can be spent on pollinator garden or educational materials. We know the bees need food, your students need food for their brains, so it could be books, whatever things that are adding to what you are hoping to achieve in an outdoor classroom. Again, Ashley mentioned at the beginning, the Whole Kids Garden Grant is the perfect pairing with the bee grant. You will get a better yield with your garden, edible garden, with the assistance of some pollinators nearby. We do request with your budgeting that you provide a full breakdown of how the funds will be spent, just so that we understand that you do plan to create some sort of outdoor classroom space. How does the observation hive work? So in our last webinar, I did put a couple of QR codes on here. Feel free to scan this one and hold it in your phone for later. It's a video link to how to install the bottom entrance beehive. Just seeing it really is believing. But I feel like this picture of one of our schools in Florida, this teacher standing beside our observation hive that is mounted on the wall. The hive itself is indoors, so it has a hole drilled through the wall, and the bees can come and go through that hole. It has 8 frames. You can see 4 on the side that's facing us in the image, and there are 4 frames on the other side. It's on a pivoting base, so it can swivel back and forth so that you can see both sides of the hive. The bee advocate and the mentor should work together to find proper placement for the hive. One question we get a lot with this is, can it be installed in a second story? Yes, it can. It's actually super helpful for the bees, because then you're not worrying about doorways. So the second story observation hive does work, and actually works pretty well. Next slide. Where should I put the observation hive? So facing south-southeast is best results. So we talk a lot about best practices. We are talking about live creatures. So when you apply for the bee grant, you're going to be asked, do you have proper placement for the bees? So south-southeast is best practices for that. It feels less like a suggestion, more like this is what is in the best interest of this particular organism. Not in direct sunlight, a low traffic area on the outside where the bees can access their hive from the outside. So indoors, you should plan for it to be in a temperature controlled area. We know, I mean, we're down here in Charleston all the way up through Canada. And, so you have to consider what's best for the bees. Having a temperature controlled on the inside will help them sustain their life in that observation hive. The bees need a short walk to the hive. So when you're thinking about drilling through a wall or putting something through a window, consider that you want it to be a short space, not where they're having to walk feet upon feet to get out and to forage. Again, this is another great video clip, QR code. That is how to install your live bees. When I first came onto the Bee Cause, this is the video that did it for me. This one is the one that made it all make sense to me, where you can actually see how it's done. And so I highly recommend, even if you're not interested in observation hives, go and watch this video. All right, the next one. What comes with the indoor hive? It comes with the observation body. You can see it here in this picture. It's a bottom entrance with a landing porch. So the landing porch goes on the outside of your building. It does come with the deep frames. It comes with mounting components and a feeder, which in this image you can't see. The feeder is on the top of the hive. It comes with a beehive cover. You will want to use that for times when you want to cover the bees at night. We give information about how to use that. It also comes with a foam indoor sign just to mount beside your hive, so that when people are coming and going, they understand what's happening, even if there's not someone there to explain it, and the outdoor metal sign. You also receive an educator's box, which has all of your information from the Bee Cause about setting up, all of the steps that you'll need to take, as well as your $500 check. It does not include foundation for your frames, so that will be something that you'll need to source. How does Pay It Forward work? It's a great program. It's easy to do. You order the honey on consignment to raise money for your bee fund. You'll charge $20 per jar. It's a beautiful gift honey that has the Bee Cause mission on the jar. So you're really not only spreading the sweet stuff, you're also spreading the mission. Your program keeps $10, and for your use, and you also give $10 back to the Bee Cause. And we use that to also continue to promote more programming and create more lesson plans and activities and other things to share with you. You can order anytime throughout the year. We have a pay it forward document at thebeecause.org that will help you know when is a good time to order, what that looks like as far as planning, pre-sales, all of the suggestions, all the tried and true methods that our schools have used for years. So all of that is there for you. We get frequently asked to provide a sample budget. This is just one I pulled from a past applicant they wanted to apply for the traditional monetary grant. So this organization would be purchasing their own kit, not getting the observation hive. And you can kind of see the breakdown of all of the different parts and pieces that they were ordering and what their total looked like. So this is a very simple budget, but we've been asked frequently what a good budget would look like. So this is just an example. How to handle spraying chemicals around the hive. So our best practices are to ask your technician to spray early morning or late afternoon when the bees are in the hive, and you'll have less foraging worker bees out. You can ask for a granular application is best. It has less drift. So thinking about wind, less movement across the hive. Asking the technician to use an applicant that's non-toxic to pollinators. You can close the hive entrance at night before they spray and then open after the sun has dried that wet application. And again, you could relocate your bees during those months when extreme spraying is done. Obviously, it happens around us. We have very little control sometimes over what that looks like. So this is our best recommendation for how to handle that. Do you have a sample of the application? So the application is basically exactly what is in the traditional bee grant or renewal grant PDF that is on both of our websites. It's very straightforward. The idea is to help you walk through the steps before you get to, you get stumped and you're not sure what you need to complete the grant. So it's very step-by-step on how to get to what you need. It's recommended to complete the doc in like a Google Doc, in some other type of document, and then copy and paste into your application. That way you don't lose any information if for some reason, your computer goes out, you left your charger at home. But to keep your information in one location, you can also reuse that information if you were to apply for a renewal grant in the future, or if for some reason this application wasn't chosen. Then you'll have all your information. We do request that you answer all of the questions. That definitely helps us get a better sense of what you're doing in your application. And just consider thoughtful responses will give your program the best chance of being selected. It is a highly competitive grant, and we would love nothing more than to give everybody a bee grant. But thoughtfulness and really highlighting what you're doing. This is your chance to brag. So brag to us. Tell us what you've done, what your goals are. But everything, like I said, everything is really straightforward in those PDFs. Who do I contact if I have issues? This is a great question. So you're going to contact grants@wholekidsfoundation.org if you have any issues with Smart Simple, questions about grant responsibilities, or any issues with your progress report. And I know that for renewal grant folks, you have to have completed that progress report to be eligible to apply. So if you have any questions about that, please reach out to grants. Please reach out to info@thebeecause.org for any of the things that I've mentioned prior to this slide, but also questions about your bees, your hive, questions about programming, curriculum, questions about your educators box materials. So those are who to go to if you have issues. Again, the timeline. The grant has been open since September 1, and we do it in parts. So part 1 closes October 15th, and then the second phase will open, part 2 of the grant application. You will receive that. You'll receive an invitation to continue the application, and that will be due on, I don't have it on there, Ashley, so now I missed that. But the last one is due, that's okay. The grant closes on October 31st. Your notification of award, whether you've been thumbs up or put on hold, which we do sometimes put grants on hold. We will give you feedback on those. But December 17th is when you will be notified, and then everything gets mailed out in February of 2026. So apply now. You can use this QR code to go to our website. You can go to either website to learn more and find out anything that you need to know, anything that we've covered tonight. But you will have to go to Whole Kids Foundation in order to actually access the link to the Smart Simple platform. But you can access it through either website. Our website will take you to their website. And I think that's all my part. So let's get started with just a couple little reminders of the Whole Kids Foundation Smart Simple application.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll go over just a couple high level things, but then again, we'll open it up for more specific questions. So, Andrea, next slide. Thank you. So if you are a returning applicant, whether that's for the Bee Grant or the Garden Grant, but if you've ever received a grant from Whole Kids in the Smart Simple platform, you should have a login and email, but a lot of times, maybe if you're new to a school or just someone else at the school applied before you, you might have trouble finding your school, or it says an account's already been created. That's totally fine. Just reach out to us and we can connect you to the school. But if you are a returning applicant with the same school that you've already applied for, this is what your page will look like when you log in. And if you forget your password, there's a forgot password button there. Next slide. New applicants will click where you see the blue arrow that says register here. You'll click that and answer the following questions in order to register either your school or your organization. Now, I will note that unfortunately, we're having an error right now with US-based organization registration. So just reach out to us by email, the grants@Whole Kids address, and we can get you set up in the system that way. All right, let's hit the next slide. Thank you. You will, if you successfully complete registration, you'll get an email. You'll be able to log in and start your application as well. But again, if you get a notice that says, there was an error or there's already an account created or anything like that, just reach out to Whole Kids. Next slide. Okay, I think that was all I was going to hit as an overview, but of course, happy to answer any further questions, both on the application itself, and of course, Emily and Tammy can answer questions on the program, the bees themselves, or anything else. So I think now is a good time to open it up. And yes, so if you have a question, go ahead and put it into the Q&A function, and we will get started on answering those.
Sorry. Yes, I'll just highlight a couple of questions. Most of them are around timing for renewal grants, if there has to be a gap between when you received the first Bee Grant and a renewal grant. And then an extension of that question is how many renewal grants can you apply for? So I'll go ahead and take a first pass, and then Ashley, if you want to add anything to it, that'd be great. So just, this is the 2026 Bee Grant. So if you were awarded a 2025 Bee Grant, you will not be eligible until 2027 cycle. So there has to be a full year, a full gap year between when you received your first grant and when you apply for your renewal grant. And we do that because, as Ashley mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that you have implemented a successful program for a full year and spent all of the funds, and can also, more importantly, submit a progress report to all of us showing the success of your program. And that data, along with your renewal grant application, will help us determine if you're ready to accept a renewal grant that next year. And then a second question is, how many grants in total can you receive? You can receive one new grant, a traditional B grant, which is what we call it. And then you are also eligible for 2 renewal grants, for a total of 3 grants awarded through this program. Let's see,
You said it perfectly, Tammy. I have nothing to add.
Okay, good. And then we have another question: can the B advocate and the B mentor be the same person? And the answer is yes. And just to put it in layman's terms, the B advocate is really the educator. It's the person who is advocating for the program. So if you are a teacher or an executive director or a program leader at your nonprofit or your educational organization, then you are most likely the B advocate. You're the one who is responsible for educating the children on this amazing program. If you happen to also be a beekeeper, then you can absolutely be the bee advocate and the bee mentor. Hopefully that answered that question. I also just wanted to highlight, when Emily was talking about the budget, if you are specifically interested in the observation hive, you should plan on using your funds or other funds to buy the live bees. We do not ship bees. We are not allowed to, by law, to ship bees across state lines, and definitely not across Canada and the US. So bees are usually donated to you by your beekeeper, but if you have to buy bees, they usually cost between $80 and $120 for a box of bees. And they literally come in like a caged shoebox. And they will most likely be shipped to you through the US mail or given to your beekeeper, and then your beekeeper can give them to you. So anyway, $80 to $120 to order your live bees, and that is usually done in December. So you should have plenty of time to make that call to order those, because you'll find out mid-December if you were awarded this grant. Let's see.
We have a couple in the chat, but it looks like one more came into the Q&A. Maybe we'll hit that one first. So Chrysanda asks, I teach transitional kindergarten, 4 to 5 years old. Am I eligible? So Chrysanda, if your programming would also be teaching any students in the elementary, middle, or high school range, as well as transitional kindergartening, then yes. But if you're only teaching transitional kindergarten schools in the B program, unfortunately, no, you would not be eligible. But again, if you want to include TK along with other K through 12 grades, then yes, that would be eligible.
And Ashley, could you answer the question about if you can get a renewal grant in 2 consecutive years? I'll just let you explain that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, great question. No, we do ask for you to have a full year in between any grant types. So whether that's between your first grant and a renewal, or a renewal and a renewal, we ask for 1 full year in between. And that's both so that you get the chance to spend the money, but also so that we get the chance to hear from you about how you've spent the funds, how it went, what did you learn from the experience, and things like that. So that's why we do ask for that time in between. So yes, so good thing to know for planning purposes. Let's see. Okay, cool. We have a few more in the chat. Let's see. Veronica, I was awarded the garden grant, and some of the admin and teachers are concerned about safety with the bees and students. Want to make sure I explain to the fullest extent the safety of the observation hive. Are there resources to help me explain this? Tammy or Emily, do you want to take that one?
Yes, I'll let Emily do that, since she touched on it a little bit.
Absolutely. Yes. If you go to our website, thebecause.org, and go to the resource library. There is a document called Bee Campus Safety that will give you all the information that you should know about hosting the observation hive or a beehive on campus. Yes, so that's what we recommend that you share with parents, with your staff, with anyone who has concerns. And then if that feels like you still are needing more information, again, please email me at info@thebecause and we can point you into other things that you can share. But obviously, it's the excitement, it's getting everybody so pumped about it. And again, I said being very knowledgeable. So when you are the person who is advocating for the bees, not only in having them at your campus, but also just advocating for them as the amazing resource that they are and the food that they provide us, you'll be so excited that they will also be excited along with you. But yes, we do have documentation on our website to help you.
And I'll just add to that there's another document that just comes to mind called Getting Your Bees Approved. And there are some really nice tidbits of information in there because it's meant to be a conversation starter and just support for you when you're bringing this program to your administration for approval. So I think sometimes, just again, educating, like Emily said, kind of building a very strong foundation of supporters before you bring the bees, and then bringing your nurse on into the conversation, as well as just creating that really comprehensive bee team. So you have lots of supporters from lots of different, bringing lots of perspectives. I think that would be great. And then just one other comment, Emily and her team have created a beautiful standards-based curriculum that is free to all of you, and it can be used with or without being a grant recipient. So sometimes, just to look at some of that curriculum and maybe even implement some of it in your classroom or in your educational programming, it will not only help you start conversations, but it might also help the kids understand the importance of this program and start conversations, and they can sometimes be your biggest advocates for implementing a program like this.
Awesome. Thank you, Tammy. I see a question from Jayanne. I think we already answered this one. So about whether the bee mentor and the bee advocate or the applicant can be the same person if they have experience. So I believe Tammy covered that one, but Jayanne, if you still have a follow-up question or anything that you're still unclear on, let us know. And then Megan, I see two questions, one about the garden grant and one about the bee grant. For the garden grant question, actually, if you don't mind emailing us, that would be great. Just don't want to confuse folks with the different grants. Yeah, and then Tammy or Emily, if you wouldn't mind answering the bee grant question from Megan in the chat, that would be great. Oh, I can read it out loud too. I think our bee mentor has some honeybees to donate. Is it okay if our grant is only spent on equipment and educational materials since we will have the honeybees already?
Yeah, that's absolutely okay. In fact, we encourage you to get as much equipment and support donated as possible, so that you can use the rest of the funds to support your programming throughout the year. Because, once you start this program, you'll start seeing that there are other things you want to do. So the more you can stretch the money on this live bee program, the better.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. And even back to Jayanne's question about can the bee mentor and the bee advocate be the same person? Absolutely, yes. I will say that you do want a bee team. So while you might be the applicant as well as the mentor, I would warn letting it all fall on your shoulders, if that makes sense, that you will want to have someone else on your staff. You may want like a community member, like whoever will help you create your best opportunity with this grant. So it's strength in numbers, Ashley says. That's absolutely right. Because, getting your bees approved, all of those things really does take multiple voices to say the same thing sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think we got all of the questions answered in the Q&A in the chat. We'll stick around for another minute or two if you have additional questions, or of course you can email us. But thank you all so much for joining, especially I know this is the evening for some folks. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for everything you do for the bees and for school gardens and bee programs. And we look forward to hearing more from you. So I'll go ahead and turn the recording off, but we will stick around a little bit longer as well. Thanks, everyone.